Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure meeting and joining you this afternoon. I want to give you a brief overview over a project titled Reimagining Engagement with China over Investments in Global South, Mapping Communities and Facing Chinese Businesses and Banks. This project is a collaboration between different organizations. It's EJAtlas, Global Just Transition, Institute for Policy Studies, Sustentarse, Action and Research for Environmental Justice Association, and Latinoamérica Sustentable. The mapping project covers 24 cases which have been documented with lessons of local engagement with projects in the Global South involving Chinese investments, with the following objectives: to foster collaboration among civil groups focused on Chinese investment projects, to share strategies that have been effective, in some cases not that much, in promoting transparency and reducing negative impacts on workers and other stakeholder groups, to lessen the impact on territories in the Global South where communities' rights are being affected, to maintain or increase the flow of critical minerals and materials to the Global North, and to increase transparency and accountability where standards are not met, and identify companies that have improved their performance. And what we have learned is the following. First, investments and operations from China are different than those of other origins in the following aspects. Chinese firms and investors in general show a high tolerance for financial and socio-environmental risk because they take on projects that investors or companies from other origins are unwilling to take or to undertake. Second, are more opaque, often not possessing even basic public information. It can be difficult to research the conduct of those firms given complicated ownership patterns. Third, to emphasize government-to-government relations, risk of high level of corruption, and pay considerably less attention to civil society and community engagement. And also Chinese firms and investors employ various soft power tactics to prepare the ground before entering in a territory and starting an extractive or infrastructure project in order to gain the license to operate from communities and local authorities. Here, a short glimpse on the map itself. There is every project that we studied was featured here with a brief description of the case. And this map and the report will be officially and formally launched next December at an international webinar. I hope you can join us for this opportunity. And now, what are the key lessons from community resistance, what we have learned, and what has worked in preventing the expansion of sacrifice zones? First and foremost, local activism. It has been the most important factor, all kinds of resistance and public demonstrations. Second, the internationalizing protests. NGO activists have frequently brought local conflicts to a national and even international level, and it had helped a lot. Legal strategies to increase the pressure on companies and local and national authorities, and sometimes block projects altogether to pursue justice for the affected stakeholder groups. Sometimes victories are only partial. Popular mobilization succeeds in forcing important change in a project or in postponing a project for an indefinite period of time, but often also projects after a few years start again. The suspension of projects involving significant Chinese investments or financing has had also a negative impact for those actors. First, higher capital expenditures and operational costs, also lower revenues due to the delays and cancellation of the projects and the disruption of the operations. And secondly, reputational costs to Chinese entities in China itself. Even countries and communities that in the first moment welcome financing and investments from Chinese origin are now becoming less confident due to poor transparency in social environmental performance. China can do better by in implementing better policies and have a better sustainability performance for critical minerals and energy transition. First, by abiding to social and environmental regulations of host countries, international standards and treaties, and all the rules within China itself, whichever is stricter or add altogether. Second, conducting accurate impact assessments and secure free, informed, and prior consent. Third, establishing grievance mechanisms monitored by both government and NGOs and communities. Fourth, respecting the right to protest, which would prevent repression and violence on the part of the state and companies. And fifth, providing full transparency about the nature of the projects, the financing connected to these projects, and the entities involved. All this in local languages. And finally, we want to invite you again to join our webinar in December. Thank you very much for your attention.